Hello and welcome to today in the news on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chikudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers, starting off with Vanguard this morning. And Vanguard is leading with Supreme Court rumble in Judiciary over nomination of justices. The writer says names on the FJSC's list, excellent, and that's coming from Professor Akinsheye George, SAN. And it says no cause for alarm, and that's coming from the NJC and CJN. We can see a photo story showing the NAPE 2023 conference and exhibition. On the financial vanguard, we have inflation. Declining demand triggers a 20% fall in food, beverage production. You can read more on page 27. And on page 8, 4 years after, Magu opens up, says corruption Nigeria's greatest problem. Terror war. Niger remains a member of multinational joint task force, and that's coming from the high commander. And on sports, page 39, we have Sack Pissarro now. Nigerians kick after another poor outing by Eagles. And stories above, we have Why I Want to Succeed Governor Obaseki, and that's come from Shaibu. You can read more on page 8. On page 14, State of the Nation, What Tinubu Will Force Us to Do by Bode George. PLATEAU Appeal Court sacks Governor Mutfwang, declares the Goshwe winner. You can read that on page 13. Rex appointment, Serap budget orders suit Tinubu. You can read on page 10. And that's all we can take on Vanguard. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with recruitment. Police turned down 190,000 applicants. The writer says Lagos, Bayelsa, Southeast State shun job offer. Stories above, Appeal Court sack another governor. It's a temporary setback, says Mutfwang. APC candidate hopeful, and Labour Party candidate wins assembly seats. Page 7, Navy destroys 5,000 barrels of crude oil in Ondo. President Diri orders greet Jonathan at 66. Twist in Osun government, judiciary clash, CJ will be in office today. And lastly, on the front page of the Nation, Shuaibu dares Obaseki joins a race for governor. Edo needs practical leaders. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with Lagos others caught in fiscal recklessness amid huge legacy debts. We can see an infographic showing a state contentious budget lines. Caustic retirement speeches reflective of discontent in judiciary. Concerns over Tinubu's flurry of appointments, reversals. You can read more on page 6. Appeal Court sacks PLATEAU governor, ask INEC to withdraw certificate of return. Magu breaks silence after 4 years, X-rays corruption war. Amend the CBN Act to insulate it from politics, and it's an editorial. You can read that on page 12. And lastly, on the front page of the Guardian, top military officers mourn as the ex-COS Chris Ali passes at 79. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with PLATEAU governor's removal. APC PDP clashes. Appeal Court sacks third opposition governor. Writer says court orders INEC to retrieve PDP certificate of return. Long Hill's judgment. Ruling party using judiciary to intimidate silence opposition. That's coming from PDP, LP, NMPP. Adeleke backtracked on acting CJ. APC knocks governor. You can read that on page 28. Panel indict OAUT ex-CMD of massive job racketeering. Israel Hamas UN US condemns school attack. Deaths hit 14,000. Stories about service extension. Federal government owes 600 teachers 23 months arrears. You can read that on page 8. Inflation jumps 24 times in 25 months. That's coming from a report. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, I don't miss presidency much, says Buhari. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining, still today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. And joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Ali Mohammed, CEO of Magnet Communications, also former editor of Daily Times and Concord Newspapers. Good to have you join me this morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So let's delve in Supreme Court and, all the brouhaha coming from it. The nomination of 22 justices for Supreme Court appointment is raising dust in the judiciary. And this is because some senior serving and retired justices are dagger drawn because of the list released by the Federal Judicial Service Commission, as they see the list as heavily politicized. Some people are saying some persons who are not supposed to be on that list, who were kept on reserve, have now been moved forward. What do you see about that?
Well, it's a normal thing when you have this kind of situation at hands where people jostle for promotion as either a chief judge or a justice of the Supreme Court. Fortunately, this is happening within the judiciary, the body that is responsible for the assurance of justice. Like I said, it is normal, but I think whoever feels aggrieved about what is going on can try his case in court.
I was expecting to say that actually.
Yes, you can try your case. You see, the problem we have is that we continue to shout and worry about some things when you can as well test that matter in court. The appointment of judges is at the prerogative of the Chief Justice of the Federation. And if you feel that the Chief Justice of the Federation is partial, you have the right to try your case in court. Regarding the states, is at the prerogative of the State Judicial Commission and the governor of that state. There is a problem in Osun State too, where the chief judge of that state was accused of bribery and corruption. And the governor purportedly, because as at this morning, he seems to have reversed his decision, purportedly suspended the chief judge of the state, and he wanted to swear in somebody else as the acting chief judge. The person he wanted to swear in refused to show up. She refused to show up, and this is now forcing the governor to reverse his earlier decision to suspend the chief judge. That, to me, is fair enough. Because the person you wanted to swear in felt that, no, this is wrong, I shouldn't be here. And she stayed back. The governor had no choice but to have a rethink, because by the fact that the other person that was to be sworn in refused to take that office, sent some signals out to the executive that you cannot just interfere in the affairs of the judiciary the way you like. So same thing with the appointment of judges at the federal level. If these people who feel aggrieved feel strongly about their opinion, they can try it in court. You don't have to start making noise and threatening here and there that the appointment cannot stand. The Nigerian Bar Association said that much, that it is not a problem. So why are we making noise about this? If they have a strong case, they can always go to court and test their cases and see what will come out of it.
All right, moving on, let's talk about this. And manufacturers of food and beverages have reduced production by 20%, and this is following the declining demand from consumers as a result of persistent rise in prices. And right now, the rise in food inflation rates at 31.52%. And what's your take on this situation?
You see, the fact that they have cut down production is due to so many reasons, not because consumers have cut down on what they want. They have been forced to abandon certain things so that they will be able to adjust economically and financially to the reality on ground. The truth of the matter is that diesel, which is a major factor in most companies that engage in production, because there is usually no light, no electricity, diesel is now over 1,000 naira. Any company that want to use diesel to power its engines will have to think twice. Even hotels. That's why you hear that the cost of a room in almost all hotels have gone up by over 100%. So it's a combination of so many factors: availability of light, availability of raw materials that are imported into the country, due to the fact that the rate of exchange of the naira to dollar has become double. It's now over 1,000. So if you sit down and look at a combination of all those forces, which create a situation whereby a manufacturer will produce a lot of his things and run into debts, that manufacturer will sit down and reorganize its priorities and downsize in terms of production. So I don't agree with the fact that it is because the people refused to purchase the things they need. They do not have the means to purchase the things they need. So as a result, a sensible person will sit down and arrange his priorities according to his financial status. So government have a great role to play in this situation. We should stop dollarizing the economy of Nigeria. A lot of things that is being done by the federal government of Nigeria is based on dollars. You want to do roads, you are talking Nigerian roads. You are talking, when you want to cost it, you cost it in dollars. So that at the end of the day, when you exchange that cost into naira, it will be coming out in billions. Even projects that are done in some environment at lesser prices, you see us doing it at triple the same price. It is unfortunate. There is a high level of inflation in the country. It is affecting production. It is affecting the general status of Nigerians. A person that has been earning 30,000 naira for years suddenly found himself in a situation where he is still earning that 30,000 as salary, and the cost of living is rising sporadically. That person will sit down and want to cut his coats according to his clothes. So that is what is going on. It's not because people don't want to buy. They don't have the means to buy. And as a result, it is going to affect the manufacturers who have manufactured a lot of things and they are unable to sell it. They will in turn have no choice but to downsize and reduce their level of production so that they won't incur a lot of debt. Because most of those companies that you see are running on bank loans. A lot of them are running on bank loans. They have to pay back daily. If you don't, you run the risk of being taken over by AMCON. So that is the situation. We pray that the economy of Nigeria will pick up as soon as possible. But the point is that the government must sit down and strengthen our currency, which is the naira. Because since the naira is so weak in the international market, the resultant effect is what we are seeing today in Nigeria. Almost everybody spends dollar. I know of somebody who was constructing a house, a very prominent person, and he pays his artisans in dollars. It has gone to that level.
I heard it yesterday. I think a guy who is like a carpenter said when you went to work, they paid them in dollars. Actually.
Yes, because people don't spend naira anymore. Artisans will come, do the work, and they get paid in dollars. You see them at Bureau de Change, changing that money to naira. So if you're doing that, you are killing the economy. As at today, our main product is petroleum products, crude oil. They are just trying to strengthen the mining sector to see what will come out of that. If the pace of trying to get the mining system working in Nigeria comes up very fast, then we might come out of this crisis as soon as possible. But I don't see that happening in the next 2 years.
So how do you think we can examine the trend and the magnitude of inflation in Nigeria?
You see, the inflation has dealt a severe blow to the economy of the country and in turn the economy of Nigerians. If you have 100,000 now, you sit down and plan carefully how you want to spend that money, especially when you are not sure of when the next 100,000 will come and where it will come from. A lot of businesses are dying. A loaf of bread, standard loaf of bread, is now over 1,000. That was what we used to buy for 500 naira last year. So we have to strengthen our currency. We have to be less dependent on imported raw materials. We have to be less dependent on imported food. We have to be less dependent on imported petroleum products. Those are the things that are killing our economy. We have crude oil. We don't have functional refineries. You sell crude oil for 3 trillion. You import refined products with over 5 trillion. I mean, does that make sense? It doesn't. That means you are not earning anything from your crude oil sales because you are bringing in refined products to the country and at times subsidize them so that the pump price of petroleum products will not go up beyond normal than the poor people can afford. As at today, I heard that this government is back to subsidy quietly because they don't want the pump price of petroleum products to rise above a certain level because the people could come out to revolt. So the more we try to stabilize our economy by cutting down on importation, the better it will be. I mean, how can you sell crude 3 trillion naira and you are importing refined products for over 5 trillion? Doesn't make, you are not earning any income. So it is going to have a strong effect on the economy, no matter who is there. Forget it, whether it is Tinubu or Buhari. Buhari engaged more in importation of petroleum products. Nobody thought of working on the refineries to get them working. Nobody thought of giving licenses to private companies to run mini refineries that can give at least 10,000 barrels of refined products. I mean, 10,000 liters of refined products per day. The time has gone where countries start building gigantic refineries, and it will cost you hundreds of billions to do turnaround maintenance. What a lot of countries do now is to have modular refineries, small, manageable refineries that can produce your petroleum needs per day in the range of 10,000-15,000 liters per barrel. So the earlier we do that, as of today, they keep telling us that they are working on the 4 refineries. We don't even know when they are going to take off. If those refineries are revamped and you have about 5 or 6 modular refineries to it, we may not have to continue to import petroleum products to Nigeria. Dangote refineries, what has happened to it? It was commissioned by Buhari. As at today, we don't have a drop of refined products from Dangote refineries. We have to watch our ways to save Nigerians from poverty.
All right, let's talk about the relationship between money supply and inflation. Some stakeholders have, faulted the Naira redesign policy as one of the reasons why we're battling with inflation right now.
Look, the Naira redesign policy was targeted at some politicians. That was the mistake that government made because you felt that some politicians will have an edge over others because they have money, and you felt that to shortchange them, you change the color of the Naira. That decision did not make any economic sense to the country's economic sector. That's why it has failed. You will recall that When the so-called changing of the naira was implemented, it was difficult to even get money from the bank. When you are changing the color of your currency, the new currency and the old one circulates concurrently for a certain period that the new currency would have been printed so large enough to take control over the old one. But here, we said we have new currency. You stopped the circulation of the old currency, and all hell was let loose. People couldn't get money. For the first time, I had to stay and got used to not having money in my pocket. You have to transfer, even if it is 2 naira, business exchange, you have to transfer. And sometimes when you transfer, it won't go. Up till today, I still have some money that I transferred, went to the bank to complain, and they have not been reversed. I just decided to remove my mind from that because I won't kill myself because of such nonsense that happened during Emefiele's days. It was deliberately targeted at some politicians, and that's why that project failed. If you want, in the US and in Great Britain, when the Queen died, the currency was changed. The head of the Queen was put in a new currency that is still circulating concurrently with the old currency. They didn't withdraw the old currency immediately. In a sane economy, the old and the new currency will circulate for at least 3-4 years. And gradually, the moment you bring the old currency to the bank, you get a new currency in return. That old currency will not find its way back to circulation again. That is the way it is done in advanced countries. But here we politicize the system, and we got a very bad response from that. So the players in CBN should learn a big lesson from that, and they should not allow it to happen again in this country. Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people, and we must have a government that is focused on making life simple and livable for the people of this country.
All right, so let's move on. And the Court of Appeal nullified the election of Governor Mutfwang of Plateau State. What's your take on that situation?
Well, it came like a thunderbolt to the people of that state, and as at last night, there was turmoil in the state because people who are supporters of the governor started protesting, and they threatened the peace of that area. This is one of the reasons why we said all litigations should be allowed to take place before winners are sworn in. Give a space of 2 months to allow for all litigation to be before swearing the winners. Today, whoever is the governor, even if he is removed, he will have taken enough money to feed those demons that are in power. He will probably know that anything could happen. If you study the pace in Nigeria, when a new governor or a new government official is elected and is supposed to appoint commissioners, he will delay it because of litigations. He will delay the appointments because he wants to consolidate his presence in office. He run the government as a sole executive, takes money for Ministry of Information, takes money for Commerce and Industry, appoint PAs that are his cronies to run those ministries in the absence of commissioners. It takes a lot of money away from the system. And at the end of the day, if the governor is not confirmed as the governor by the courts, he goes away with all the money. The new governor comes in and finds an empty treasury. He will have to start battling. That is the one major disadvantage of swearing in winners, and now those winners will have to face litigation, and after the trial, they get removed. Because the first thing somebody who is elected does once he gets to office is to try to recoup the volume of money that he had pumped into the electioneering process, because that process is highly dependent on the amount of cash that you have. Somebody who is putting over 2 billion into a governorship election, he will get there and first of all take that 2 billion with 4 billion, add 2 billion to it. So who is suffering? The people. So we must amend our constitution to allow a situation where all election trials are done before winners are sworn in. This is the lesson here. The Kano State governor have been removed. Plateau State governor have been removed. Those guys wouldn't have been there, especially when the first court, the tribunal first removed them, and the governor will now be afraid. He will do everything to clear the treasury before he leaves, because he's not too sure that the appeal court will uphold. And now that the appeal court has said no, you are going, he's so certain, because the Supreme Court's judgment may not be different from the judgment of the appeal court. So the governor will be sitting there with one side of his buttocks and start looting. And there is nothing anybody can do because the court has removed him. So we must learn to allow court cases to end before we swear in the winners.
All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go. And Mr. is speaking. He says, I don't like fish, but you prepared fish stew because you spent your money to buy the ingredients. When I asked about it, you said the ball is in my court. Now, what's my court going to do with the ball? And Mrs. replies and says, as the court pleases.
Who is the court?
Or she can take
Who is the court? Mrs. That's what we were saying.
Or Mr. can take Mrs. to court.
That's what we were saying before the program, that women are powerful and you people should stop harassing us, the husbands. Give us some respect. Stop searching our phones and let us be. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ali Mohammed, CEO of Magnet Communications, also former editor of Daily Times and Concord Newspaper. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on the screen. To find out today's stories, go to our website, www.vanguardindia.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and thank you for watching.